God of War Sons of Sparta is a good, not great Metroidvania that presents an intriguing world and story let down by a rough art style and combat that lacks the franchise's traditional crunch. I love myself an old school Metroidvania. I also love an old school style God of War prequel, of which there have already been quite a few. What I was less sure of when firing up this most recent PlayStation State of Play's surprise release, however, is whether I would ever enjoy a blend of the two. And to be honest, even after playing through God of War Sons of Sparta for roughly a dozen hours, I'm still not totally sure it works in all the ways that Sony Santa Monica Studio and Megacat Studios intended. It's an interesting experiment, no doubt, one that definitely has the makings of a truly brilliant Kratos-coated explorathon, yet it's also forever bogged down by fruitlessly stilted combat, a rather boring art style, and a serious lack of momentous set pieces, all of which is a sin when dabbling in the world of God of War. Sure, if taken solely as its own thing, and when removing much of the baggage that comes with being one of PlayStation's most important franchises, Sons of Sparta is a serviceable enough 2D genre entry. Even then though, this coming-of-age journey still never quite brings enough new to the table, ultimately only ending up merely being good and not great as a result.
We are Spartans. Our words are truth enough.
Admittedly, one of the absolute best aspects Sons of Sparta has going for it is the period in which it's set. Long before being tricked by the Greek god Ares to slaughter his own family, and well before the Norse realm would be forced to feel his wrath, Kratos was a young Spartan in training at the Agoge alongside his brother Deimos. Such events have only previously been hinted at in past games, most evidently in 2010's PSP release of Ghost of Sparta, yet here the childhood of Greece's eventual god of war is on full display. As such, the story here is one of brotherhood, kinship, and the bonds that these can forge during the throes of battle. I'd always wondered about Kratos and Deimos' relationship prior to the latter being stolen away by the gods, and there's certainly plenty of context provided in Sons of Sparta that's made me think differently about specific future events in the timeline. Less successful is the actual journey the brothers go on, which in typical Metroidvania fashion sees them going back and forth through several differently themed biomes, acquiring different gear and gifts from the gods that are all required to achieve their mission of finding a missing friend. Far more interesting is the framing device Sons of Sparta deploys, which serves as a great bit of fan service by bringing back original actor T.C. Carson as the voice of adult Kratos as he narrates the boyhood affair to his young daughter Calliope. It would have been easy to make Christopher Judge fill in again, but allowing Carson to return adds another layer of legitimacy to Sons of Sparta and all the ways it hopes to fill in further gaps of the franchise's Greek era. This, alongside some more than familiar gameplay systems like opening chests, upgrading using blood orbs, and several returning enemy types, proves the reverence that developer Megacat Studios has for Santa Monica's original trilogy.
Oh, you again. Mind your manners.
That's what makes it even more disappointing that Sons of Sparta hardly ever reaches either the narrative or cinematic gameplay heights of pretty much any other game in the series. And yep, I'm talking even God of War Ascension. The main culprit for this comes down to the combat, which here isn't up to snuff even compared to some more recent Metroidvania stalwarts like Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, and Metroid Dread. Facing off against hordes of mythic creatures lacks the crunch and punchiness you find in the main series, always resulting in endlessly dodging and repetitive mashing of the square button, with only the odd spirit-powered attack thrown in here and there. Not once in my playthrough of God of War Sons of Sparta did I manage to find a good sense of flow in any of the game's combat mechanics. Instead, one style of move, normally with the spear, always needs to complete before another can be engaged, making for some incredibly stilted battles against foes that feel far from fluid and consistently left me open for attack. The game aims to add spice to combat by letting Kratos dodge roll, block, and parry as necessary, but the timing window for the latter is so specific it's anything but consistent. Had Sons of Sparta de-emphasized melee combat in favor of exploration or puzzle solving, it might not have ended up irking me so bad. Yet that was always never going to happen in a God of War game, and this is just one of several examples in which Son of Sparta's chosen genre explicitly doesn't mesh with the franchise it's a part of. Thankfully, the ability to swap in and swap out different parts of Kratos' spear and shield help to better accommodate your preferred combat style, and can shave off some of these edges even if it can't remedy the core stiltedness of the combat. More outrageous is the number of different coloured enemy attacks you must try and account for, that range from purple, light blue, red and yellow. Accounting for them with the correct retort, be it a parry, dodge or outright avoidance, offers some degree of excitement to encounters in the early game, but by the midpoint, Sons of Sparta throws so many at you, it becomes an exercise in memory and not challenge. Also rather middling are the gifts from the gods that Kratos slowly acquires along the way, which range from a sun-throwing slingshot to flame-firing tree branch. New abilities like this further open up the map in all the ways you traditionally expect, but later additions are either safe or lacking impact, such as the knife that lets you scale previously unclimbable walls, or the simple double jump, which for some reason is gifted rather late into the adventure. I wish I could say that God of War Sons of Sparta is a good looking game, but the reality is that it's just alright. Neither a direct throwback to the more nostalgia-fueled, pixelated look of past Metroidvania eras, or an art style explicitly more modern, the game sits somewhere in the middle, and ends up looking a tad generic as a result. Fortunately, aesthetic woes are somewhat offset by an incredible level of visual variety found in the biomes, which includes everything from a woodland caked in poison clouds to a winery caked in endless blood. When it wants to, Sons of Sparta delves into the adult visual themes that are intertwined with the original trilogy. It's just disappointing that this also isn't matched either by bombastic boss fights or the typically crunchy combat we've come to expect. Ultimately, God of War Sons of Sparta, even solely viewed as a prospect on paper, already feels at odds with itself. On the one hand, you have an iconic PlayStation hero and vengeful warrior known for his unbridled rage and immense power in Kratos, while on the other, in genre terms, you have an incredibly calculated style of play in the Metroidvania, one where you're rewarded for poking away at areas little by little, taking stock of your surroundings, and being a bit more thoughtful about your actions. Kratos as a character, though, is anything but thoughtful. And yet, it's this rather confusing mix of ideas that ends up working both for and against this newest God of War endeavour. It's not necessarily a bad one when experienced in isolation, yet it's an undeniably strange and tad underwhelming one when slotted into the rest of the otherwise familiar franchise canon. We at All Out Gaming give God of War Sons of Sparta a 3 out of 5. So there you have it guys, in terms of our full review thoughts on God of War Sons of Sparta. Have you picked this one up? Have you been enjoying it? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Then, when you've done that, why not leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing to the All Out Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Well done, brother. Your tactics are improving.